Hey everyone, I just watched an interesting video. It was an interview or a debate actually, supposedly, between Stefan Molyneux and Thaddeus Russell. I say interesting to the degree that we delve into the mind of a post-modernist, relativist, subjectivist who is teaching people in secondary education his postmodern theories. And in the entire so-called debate, he kept conflating objective reality with our values and our subjective experience, and he used as the reasoning behind that the fact that our scientific theories have changed about different things. That something was a planet, then it became a non-planet, and then it became a planet again, etc., etc. And that we revise scientific theories, etc., etc., etc. And I saw him with Joe Rogan as well, where they were talking about gender binaries and things like this, and basically saying that biological sex doesn't exist because there are so many variations of men and women. And he was relating it to fighting, because of course Joe Rogan does MMA or whatever. And he was talking about how the classification shouldn't be sort of male and female; they ought to be height and weight and things like that. Which there are some of those classifications in some fighting areas. But it's interesting to note, just out of curiosity, by the by, that the example he was giving was fighting where there are the odd anecdotal cases where a woman is stronger than a man, but generally that's not the case, of course. And he wasn't using something like, say a baby-making contest. Again, he's conflating gender expression, personality, attitude, physical appearance with biological sex. And that's, again, the whole subjectivist thing. What I found most amusing came towards the end of the video when Thaddeus Russell started talking about classifications, and he said, taxonomy, I'm all about it. Classifications all day long. I find that stuff very useful. I make use of it in my day-to-day exploits, whatever. But what he wanted to do was make sure that everyone understood the point is that these are made-up constructs. These are, and I don't know if there's somebody that doesn't know that these are conceptual. But they're not arbitrary, which is what he sort of was implying, that they're completely arbitrary. And sure, they're subject to change. They're useful, though. The funny thing about it is he's sort of saying so that because of that, because there's value judgments involved in these classifications and that sort of thing, that means that objective reality is just as fluid and is somehow relative to our subjective interpretation and that sort of thing. And what he doesn't seem to understand is, first of all, the classifications are not necessarily arbitrary. They kind of are, but you're using classifications of different things in order to gain an understanding, and the understanding obviously has to rely on the acknowledgement that there is an objective reality that we are trying to quantify. He says he finds classifications useful. They can only be useful to the degree that they accurately describe groupings of different things and basically entities within our natural world. Otherwise, completely arbitrary classifications that don't reflect anything in reality would be completely useless to us. They could change. It would be fluid. They would change from one moment to another. It wouldn't matter. And that's what he thinks is happening when scientists refine theories and that sort of thing. Yes, there are scientific theories that have been proven incorrect or skewed, and they've been corrected. That's why I'm very cautious whenever I hear someone say the science is settled on any given thing, because the science has never been settled. The science should always be subject to new information. We are always providing the best possible explanation of the nature of our reality and our natural world around us. And through that process, we gain an ever closer understanding of that. And again, these classifications and theories are only useful to the degree that they're accurate. The more accurate they become, the more useful they are to us. And he admitted as much. At one point, he was talking about, a cloud. A cloud is sort of this arbitrary distinction of something. And Stefan Molyneux was sort of saying, what did Thaddeus say? If you asked, 100 people or 1,000 people, what's a cloud? Could one of them be right, and maybe the other's wrong or something? Like, does their value, their subjective value that they place upon this cloud have anything to do with it. And Molyneux said, well, yeah, I mean, and he didn't go as deep as I would. You know, if someone said, well, a cloud is, you know, water vapor, et cetera, then that would be the accurate, because that is the very definition, right? If you took the definition, you identified something in the natural world that fit that definition, then you are accurately describing it. But what would not be an accurate description would be airplane, you know, that a cloud is an airplane. And this guy used that example earlier on about how, you know, he chooses to accept that, you know, that the basic physics involved in flying work so he can get on an airplane. But it's like, well, it doesn't matter. That's the point of objectivity. It doesn't matter if you accept those things. If you change your mind mid-flight, you don't just fall to the ground or disappear or burst into flames or whatever. And so if someone says that cloud over there, that's actually an airplane, get in it and fly to Miami. If you like, give her a shot. Anyway, it was very, very humorous and yet really, really scary, because towards the end of the video, he said to Stéphane Molyneux, I'd like to talk about ethics next. And they didn't. They'd already been talking for a couple hours. And I thought, oh my God, that's the concern here. This guy is teaching ethics to impressionable young people, and he's doing it through this weasel method of walking in through the back door of, well, science has not always been accurate, so how do we know anything for sure? And then he's going to get into talking about how your interpretation of what someone else says or does is real for you, and therefore it is real, and therefore you can behave to that other person however you like. If you feel that they're coming at you, even if that wasn't their intent. And I'd still love to make a video on the primacy of intent, how important it is, and how we've lost that in our modern society. But in this case, he's teaching people to ignore intent, because your interpretation of any given thing is true, because what else could be said to be true? Relativism, subjectivism, postmodernism, very dangerous stuff. I think potentially left unchecked, it's going to lead to a lot of people beneath the ground. And I mean that objectively. Thanks for watching.